Afternoon, everybody. We are going to do a project today that's going to be a little lengthy, but I think it's going to be stunning when it's finished. We'll show you here what I'm going to be working with, and you can choose what you want to do. You don't have to do this anything like what I'm doing. If you just want to use the pendant and a string of beads, that is your prerogative. I'm giving you just an overall concept, like I'm always saying, so you can duplicate it exactly if you like. However, I'm hoping you'll take the concept and do you. So, okay, so what we're doing today, you remember a few months ago when I did the video on the drilling of the shells, prepping shells for jewelry. Well, I promised you I was going to come back and do something, and I have chosen this shell to work with. I drilled this one. You can see the little hole up there. I drilled this guy, and I knew that it was going to be a piece of jewelry eventually. And a couple of days ago, I went, oh my, I saw it in my head. So I'm using this shell, and it's a pretty large one. Let's see, I found this shell. Gee, Monelli. Across probably 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, about 80 millimeters across. So for you guys who want it in a different thing, it is about roughly 4.5 inches across this way. But I found it in a little bead shop in Navarre Beach, Florida. There's a great shell shop there if you're ever there. And that's where I found this. And I think, let me look, hold on. It is what they call maybe in the family of a calico scallop. Isn't it beautiful? Yes, ma'am. So that's what I'm using for my centerpiece. I've got some embossed alligator skin leather here that I'm going to do just a little centerpiece with on the shell. You don't have to do that. I just thought it might look pretty. I have some 6.0 seed beads in brown, but they kind of have an aurora borealis finish on them. You can see that shiny. I found these in Montana when I was there, when I got those green seed beads I used a few weeks ago in the agate stone. I got them in the same shop, but they come from the company called Blue Moon, and you can find Blue Moon beads in a lot of different places. You can find them online too, but that's what these are. Blue Moon is the company they came from. But aren't they lovely? Oh my. So we've got those, and oh yes, these are a 6.0, by the way. And these are some of the pearls I got at the bead show a while back, and they're kind of a bronze, purpley bronze color. They really didn't have a color listed on them, but the finish on these pearls is just stunning. It goes from a purpley color to a bronze. That's the only way I can think to describe them. They are 8 millimeter, so I'm going to be using those. And then I've got some bead caps here, and they are 7 millimeter, and I'm doing a copper this time because I want to offset these two colors right here. So I'm using a copper just to give me a little sliver of light on the pearls. I needed something to make those pearls pop, and this is it. Okay, and then I have a bail. I chose silver in the bail, and the clasp is also going to be silver, so it's going to pull the silver all the way up. But it's just a simple clasp that you pinch like that, and it pinches down. Then I chose these. These are a 6 millimeter fluted bead as my accent finishing bead at the end where the clasp is, and they're fluted. Aren't those just kind of fun? And it kind of pulls in the motif here that's on the clasp. I'm using a basic S clasp on this, and it kind of pulls in that roping. And then I've got a couple of these guys, which is an oval jump ring that I'm going to connect all of my strands of beads to on each side. And then I'll connect those to this. So when we get there, we'll cross that bridge. Okay. Let me see. And then obviously I have my crimps and my crimp covers. And you'll need a little slice of thread if you're going to be doing the leather piece in the middle that I'm fixing to show you. You'll need some thread. This is Coates and Clark. You can get it anywhere, Walmart, anywhere. And it's nylon. And I use this to do all of my corn bead necklaces because it's so strong. Um, it just takes a long time for this to wear out. So you can get this anywhere, very inexpensive. I'm using that as in black. And to do the little bead work on the shell that we're going to be doing on the piece of leather, I'm using a big eye needle, and I've told you about these before. These right here are a godsend if you're going to be doing a lot of tiny little beads or having to weave things in and out. This little guy right here will save your life on so many levels. And you can see that it pulls open. You can, well, for one thing, you can see how flexible it is. Look at that. It's like you can just bend it anyway. But when you open it up, it opens up. Look how wide that thing opens. Got it on my finger. I mean, look at that. So you just slip your thread through, pull it down, and you are ready to rock and roll. These are the greatest things since sliced bread. Okay, I think that's everything off the top of my head that you're going to need. And like I said, if you don't want to use any of the pearls, you don't want to use the leather I'm going to do on here, it doesn't matter. Make it your own, the overall concept your own. Okay, I'm going to try to make this video shorter if I can. There's just a lot of moving parts, as I say. Let me get my head wrapped around it and we'll get started. All righty, we're going to work on this centerpiece first. And I just kind of like to have my centerpieces done so when I'm working on the necklace, I can just move right into it. So what I did with this shell, and I'm going to put a, so you guys can go to the next video. I'm going to put in the next section, the shell prepping video that I did a few months ago to tell you how to prep shells, because I know this is summer and the beach is calling people and you're picking up all this fun stuff on the beach, and then you get home and you go, what do I do with this? I don't know how to put a hole in it. So I did a whole entire video. It's about 45 minutes on how to prep your shells. So anyway, if you've gotten something off the beach, for sure, not so much at a store like I got this one, but off the beach itself, you need to make sure you bring it home and get the salt water off of it, all the salty stuff that's in all the crevices and things like that, because that's what keeps it bleaching out. So what I did with this one, even though I bought it at a store, I brought it home, I washed it, I took a little toothbrush and kind of got down in the water and got all the little crevices out and things like that. And then what I do is, shells are nothing but calcium, okay? And so I like to make my shells look a little more vivid. So what I do is exactly what I do with my nails. This is Sally Hansen Vitamin E Nail and Cuticle Oil. That's what this is. Nail and Cuticle Oil by Sally Hansen. You can get this anywhere. It's online. You can get it anywhere. And so what I did was, and I did this yesterday, so it's had time to soak in, but I'm going to do just a little section. Actually, let me pause. I'm going to get a shell I hadn't done yet. Okay, I'm gonna come back to this. Like I said, you can go to the video and watch this process, but these right here, this one I oiled, this one was not. Can you see the difference in them? Oh my goodness. This one almost looks chalky. This one like looks nice and vivid and the color has been brought out. So that's the difference that it makes. And what you'll do, got a hair in my mouth. The fan is blowing my hair like crazy. Okay, so what you're going to do is dab just a little bit of the oil. Don't saturate it too much. Just dab a little bit of the oil, kind of like that. And then take your fingers and just work it into the shell. It will absorb. It's just like your nails. Your nails are calcium, and so is a shell. And just work it into the shell with your fingers until it feels like it's worked in there really, really good. You don't want a lot of excess oil on there. If you have excess oil, get a little paper towel or a tissue and kind of go over it like this with it and get that off because you don't want excess. You just want a little bit of a shine and bring the life back to it. All right. You can see where I did now the back of it is looking more like the back of the other one. You can see there. And you can see on the bottom there where I did it on the bottom. Looks great, doesn't it? Okay. So this shell I did a while back when I did the video, and this one is actually has the hard as nails polish on it. It really holds the color of the shell. It's calcium, so it's good for it. And then I drilled it up here, so this is going to be a piece eventually. But isn't this fantastic? Look at all these little knobby things on it. Wow. This was just, I picked it up off the beach. Just picked it up, just like that. So I went ahead and did that side, but this side, I have not done anything to, but I'm going to put a little bit like this on it so you can see the difference. And this is so fun too, guys. It's good for your hands too. It's good for you all the way around. Good for the shell, good for you. Okay, so you can see where, wow, that looks fantastic. I didn't get those little crevices right there, but you can see the difference in this section right here versus this one. It came alive. You can see how it just, this side just woke up. And that's what you're doing. Isn't that just exciting and fun? Your beach finds are going to take on a whole new level. Anyway, okay, let's get ready. Okay, so I've already oiled this. That was the first thing I did. I did it yesterday, and I worked those oils into it really, really, really good. And then I did front and back. Isn't that just stunning? Wow. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is finish this to make sure that it's what I want it to be. And as I worked with it a little bit, I decided that I kind of did this because I knew I was going to do at least 3 or 4 strands of this. So I kind of did this so I could see the how it was going to look with it. And I decided that it needed something in the middle. And you may not want to do this, but anyway, I cut a little piece of that leather into like a really tall triangle. And I laid it on here like this, and there's my hole. So I pushed the leather up to that top part where this little scoop is on the shell right there. And I just laid it there to see what I thought that was going to look like. And I thought, okay, I like this. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take some of these little 6.0 seed beads, and I'm going to bead a straight line down here on this right here. So I've cut my thread. If I can pick it up, my fingers aren't letting me pick it up. All right, and get your big eye needle, open it up. My fan is blowing my thread. Stick your thread through there like so and pull it down. And you're just going to pull it down just like that. Okay, and you'll have some sticking out right there. Let me move my pearlies right here so I don't need them in the way. And I'm going to use I did this ahead of time so I'd know, but I'm going to use about 9 of these or so. And what I did was instead of beading one whole string of the seed beads here, I wanted it to be a little bit more flush to the leather. So if you string just one string of 9 beads here, it's going to kind of bow up like that, or it's going to kind of lay to the side or buckle, and you don't want to do that. So what I did was I punched 3 more holes in it, one right there, one right there, one right there. They're basically kind of the same distance apart. And then this hole at the top up here is the one where the bail is going to go through on the hole on here. So anyway, so it would be 4 beads holes if you count that. But that way I can bead 3 here, loop them, 3 here, loop them, 3 here, loop them, and weave it back through. It's going to be stable for the beads to be on there, and then we'll attach it to the shell. All right, here we go. So I'm going to start in the back. Let me get my eyes down here. Hopefully I'm going to try my hardest to keep my hands in the camera. I'm going to take my needle. Going to come through the back of the leather. Pull that through. Leave a tail down here so you can have something to work with. And then you're going to put 3 of the seed beads on. I'm looking for ones that are similar in size and shape. All right, then you're going to go back through the first hole. So it should look like that. I'm going to go back up here to the top hole again. And I'm going to run it back through the 3 beads again. And back through that second hole. So I'm basically just looping it twice is what I'm doing. So I've got it tight like that. I'm going to hold those beads with my finger. I'm going to come through the second hole down here from the back. I'm going to get 3 more of the seed beads. Then I'm going to go through the hole above it. Like so. Going to come back through this bottom hole again, if I can find it. There's my hole right there. There it is. I'm going to go back through them again. And back through that first hole. So I just basically threaded it twice. All right, so it should look like that. Isn't that wonderful? Wonderful. Okay, and on this one, I'm going to come back through that hole on the bottom where you just left off. 3 more. And I'm putting a little finishing bead on the bottom down there. You don't have to do that, but I'm doing that because I think it'll pull in the copper on the bead caps. Then you're going to run it through the bottom hole right there, like so. Come back up to your first hole that's above that. You're just going to wrap it. And you're going to go through this again. Usually, if I'm not having to demonstrate this, it's a lot easier to do. Whoops, 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 don't fold over. And back through that little finishing bead, back through the bottom hole. All right, so it should look like this. And it's going to have some, you know, a little bit of a ripple to it, but not very much at all, which is a good thing. All right, I'm going to go through this bottom hole a couple of times down here with the thread. Always wants to loop over there like that. All right, once I've pulled it taut right there on the bottom, I'm going to flip it. And then all you're going to do is you're going to come back through here. And you're going to weave your thread back through like that. One more time on that loop. Go to the next one. Loop it again. I'm just going underneath the threads all the way up. All you're doing is reinforcing it. Oop, oh, I didn't see that. Come on, don't loop back in there. There he goes right there. Okay. So you've got it down here. I took my needle off. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to tie this in a knot right here. As long as I didn't loop it over on the side there. Because it's dark brown, so it's a little hard to see. All right, so I did it there, tied it there. We'll make another, that was just a half knot. Okay, and I'm gonna make one more. My fan is blowing my thread. My fan's blowing my thread, and it's like, I can't get it tied. May have to move it down so I can work a little better. All right, one more little half loop there. Nothing difficult. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take both of these threads, put them back into my big eye needle, like so. I got both of them in there. And then I'm just going to run them back underneath the existing threads on the back. And somebody might be thinking, man, that's overkill. Well, it might be, but you know what? It's a rarity if I have anything come apart, and that's what you're looking for. All right, so I've got that, and you can see I got the excess, so I'm going to cut that off. So, all right, so now we have our centerpiece for the shell. If you're going to do that, and you can do any shape you want to. You don't even have to do the beadwork on here if you don't want to. If you just like the shape of the leather and how it, you know, works with the shell or the pendant that you're using. It's endless. Jewelry is endless. There are no right or wrongs. Okay. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to line up this top hole right here in this with this hole right here, and we're going to glue that down, that leather piece down to the shell. All right, and I am going to use E6000. Whoop, wrong one. There it is. I'm going to use E6000 jewelry and bead glue. You can use super glue, but it may change the color of your leather, or it may change the color of your beads if it gets on them. So yeah, you may want to second guess using super glue. You can also use this, a jeweler's glue, GS Hypo Cement. You can use that as well. It will glue just beautifully, but it's going to take longer to dry. So I'm using the E6000, and I'm just going to get me a little, you can use a toothpick or anything you want to use. I'm going on the back and I'm going to rub it down like so. And you don't want it on there so thick that it's running everywhere. You get down in here to the fresh. That's why I keep telling you guys, you need an apron. You should never know what you're going to be doing on this channel. One day you're doing something like this, and the next day you're just doing a basic plain necklace, and so you just don't know. I've got an idea for some earrings that it's going to require some paint. So, when that little guy comes down the pike, you're going to need an apron. So you might as well go ahead and invest in one. It has saved my clothes so many times. All right, so I've got that on there. And I'm going to line it up with the hole on the top. Yep, I can see straight through there. And then just to make sure, I'm going to stick a pin in there like that, just to make sure that I don't get off kilter, because I want to center it. So I want to make sure that I can get my bail in here on the top. So that's why I stuck that pin in there. And I'm pressing it down with my fingers, just very gently. All right, so that looks like it's in the right place. And while it's still wet, I can move it. Yep, I see the hole. All right. So I'm going to press this down real good. I'm going to hold it for a few minutes and then I'll be back. Okay, we've got the leather glued on there and it's pretty good and dry. Just so you will know, whenever you oil your shell, that's the other reason why you need to make sure that you don't have excess oil on here, because if you're planning on gluing anything on there, obviously it's not going to stick. So I meant to say that earlier. So that was part of the reason why I oiled my shell yesterday and really let it work in there. And then I came in today and I took a soft cloth and I just kind of really wiped off any excess that may have still been there overnight. But anyway, we've got the center on there. The next thing we're going to do is put the bail on. Oh, and one more thing, just for detail purposes, when you glue something up, make sure that you look through your magnifying glass, your magnified eyes, and make sure that you do not have excess glue sticking out on the edges like this around anywhere. You want to make sure that is off. Sometimes I use just a little pin or a little toothpick and just kind of run it like down the edge. Like here's just like a little pin, and I'll just take it. If I see some sticking out, I'll just take my pin and just run it right down the edge like that, and just pull it out and just clean it up around the edges, because you want it to make sure that it looks professional. And like I always say, it's in the details. Always in the details. Just take your time. There's no reason to be in a hurry for anything. So, okay, with that being said, is this not beautiful? Look at this, guys. Wowee. Wowee. Mm-mm-mm. This shell is magnificent. Okay, next is putting on the bail, and I've got just a little pinch bail here. It opens up. You can see, you can open it up. Now, when you're getting a bail for a piece of jewelry, make sure that you get the right size for the jewelry. If you've got a big chunky piece of like this, or a big chunky rock that you're trying to put a bail on, if it's a little bitty bail, it's not going to fit. Okay, it's not going to, this part of it will not be able to go over the wide part. So you've got to have your bail big enough to go over the widest part that you're trying to cover, if that makes sense. Okay. Now, what I did also with this little guy, a lot of times, the prongs on the bail, the little prong part of it, like this and this on here, sometimes they're pretty long most of the time, and that just gives you more to work with depending on the thickness of your stone or the pendant that you're working with. So if for some reason you clamp your bail on and you realize there's space in between here and your pendant, whatever that is, if there's space in between there and you put it on there and it moves around, everything's moving around like this, it's not tight enough. So you can go in and take your little blunt nose guys, something like this, or something like this, a flush cutter, whatever you want to use. And you can go in and you can just nip off a little bit of that prong to make it fit a little tighter on your pendant. Now, do just a smidgen at a time, because if you clip too much, you won't have enough to go in the hole that's on your pendant. So make sure you just a smidgen at a time, maybe just one side at a time, and then put it on, pinch it together, make sure it's snug and not moving around and snug. You don't want to see any air between your pendant and your bail. You don't want a lot of air where it clips. So anyway, so I had to trim this one down because it was way too big. So I trimmed it down and I filed it down a little bit because this was a pretty hefty metal. So I filed it down just a little bit. All right, I'm going to put this puppy on. So I'm doing the longest piece here. Let me get my eyes into that hole right there on the front, and I'm going to push it down, and then I'm going to make sure that the back goes into the hole right there, and then I'm going to push it down with my finger, and if it's not tight enough, you have to keep a push in. And if you have to use a something like this, my brain just left my body. Or something like this, the flat nose, to push it down with, if you don't have enough strength in your fingers to push it down. But you want to make sure that it's flush. You can see how tight that is on there. Remember, I said there's no air. Maybe Ken can get a side view of that right there. There's no air in between there. It's tight. Okay, so we got our centerpiece done. Isn't that beautiful? Now we're getting ready to go and do all the little tiny bead work. One other thing you can do, I meant to tell you earlier, with these bails, is because the prongs, when you push them together, they meet like that. For the most part, they're going to meet together. So you can do this as well. If the hole in your pendant is big enough to do this, you can take a plier and bend one of them down and one of them up just a smidgen so that they don't meet flush, but one goes under the other like that. And that's another way you can try also doing these pinch bails. Um, if you don't want to try to snip off a little piece, you can do it that way as well. So forgot to tell you that earlier, but there you go. All right, next step. We've got everything on. Bail is on. Looks beautiful. So we're getting ready to start this beading process right here. And what I did was, instead of just breaking up my whole strand of this, because you know it's 152 billion pickup for beads. So I think I'm going to do 4 strands through here of these. So I've cut 3. I just cut 3 out of these. I'm going to do about a 16-inch right here, and that's almost what that is. So I went ahead and cut 3 of these out. I'll be using these to start with. And the other thing is when you get down here to your bail part right here, these beads, these 6.0s, are too big to slide through that hole right there. So what I've done is I've taken a little tiny, maybe 3.0 bead right here, and it's going to get, when I'm threading, when I get to this part, will slide to a couple of those on to my thread. It will go under here, and then I'll pick up my brown seed beads on the other side. That way you don't have to force these beads in. These are just a little smaller. They're maybe a 3 or 4.0 size, millimeter, sorry. I'm interchanging seed beads and other beads. I'd say they're more of a 3 millimeter, but they are small enough to go through that hole right there. And you're only going to need a couple, to fill in that little gap, and then pick up your brown seed beads on the other side, each one of these. Okay, so I'm just going to do a random pattern of the pearls in with this. I just didn't want them to be all uniform. I just kind of wanted them to be scattered. And that's up to you as far as where you want your placement to be on there. You may want 3 or 4 of the seed beads and a pearl. You may want a strand of seed beads this long and a pearl. It just doesn't matter. It's up to you. But anyway around, they're just going to be randomly placed within these strands. I have already cut my beading wire. I'm using AccuFlex medium. You can use soft flex as well, but I've already cut my 4 strands for the 16-inch. So I'll be ready to go when I get to each one. Okay, bam, let's go. Okay, so I'm working on the first strand here, and I knew this was going to be 16 inches right here. So I kind of found the middle of it, and I took my 2 pieces right there, and I put a little clip right here on this one. Let me pull it down here, just so I'll know that I have this much to finish out with the crimps and everything. So, and I knew down here was the middle, so I put a little tiny, when I started, I put a little guy down here so I'd know where the middle was. And then I decided to make this my pattern. And what I did was since this is the part that's going around the neck right here, I decided that I would put 30 beads up here because I didn't want the pearls to go around the back of the neck because you're really not going to see them, and I wanted them all to be kind of concentrated in the front. So I counted out about 30 here. Then I put a pearl. I did 10 here and a pearl, 11 here and a pearl. Should have been 10, but doesn't matter. Okay, and then 5 here and a pearl, 7 here and a pearl, and then 2 right here on the bottom. So now I'm down to the middle of the necklace, and I'm getting ready to put my medallion on here. So I added the little silver bead right here, and I'm going to add another little silver bead. I'm trying to See the hole here, guys? It's tiny. Okay, so I added my 2 silver beads right here, and that's going to go right through that loop. And I'm going to pull it down. Just like that. Get in there, baby. Get in there, baby. All right. Once you add your other beads on this side, they'll move into the center like they should. Okay, so I also made a cheat sheet. You can see I did a little cheat sheet here on the bead count so that this strand would be the same on both sides. And then I'm going to bead this side exactly like this one. And then the next strand, I'm going to alternate some beads in here in between these sections right here on the next strand. So for those of you who like to watch this process, I'll bead a couple here and there, and then I'll finish this up. So I had 2 down in the bottom right there. Okay, and then once I had the 2, I had 7 right here after I added that pearl. So I've got that. I'm going to add a pearl, and I make sure that my pearls are shiny before I put them on. So I'm wiping them off really good. Put one on there, and then the bead cap. Sometimes they'll have a little residue from the show that you bought them from or wherever you bought them from. They may have a little residue on them. So I just go ahead and wipe them down really good. All right. All right, so next is 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That one's a little flat. 6, 7. All right, I've got 7 there. You make sure. 5, 6, 7, correct. And I'm going to put on another pearl. I am so excited about this necklace, y'all. I'm just stoked about it. I wound up seeing it in my head. I was getting ready to do something else, and I sat down, and all of a sudden, I saw this shell, and then I saw what I thought it was supposed to look like. And I knew, I said, oh my gosh, I think I've got the right beads, which was these guys right here. And I'm just so excited about it. Ah! Okay, so you can kind of see where we're going here on this. And this, I'm going to finish this row out and then I'll be back. All right, so I've got the first strand beaded. You can see where we're going here with this. And then what I did was I went ahead and I made sure everything was pushed down. Everything was even up here where my threads are even up here. Let me move this down just a little so I can keep my hands in the thing. So once I did that and I got it all centered, I took my measure to make sure, because I wanted this to be between 16 and 17 inches, this part of it. And right now it is at 17. So I know I've still got my clasp and things to add on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off about 3 to 5 of these beads up here on each side, because I've still got to connect these to the rings that will connect it to the clasp. So that's going to add more length. So I'm just taking out 5 on each side. And that way I'll have the space I need to make sure it's not longer than it needs to be. Okay. Ooh, this is so fun. It's a lot of moving parts, guys. I told you this was going to be kind of a long video. I'm clamping this one down right here on this side so it doesn't move. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the finishing bead up here. Like so. Okay. And then I'm going to add my crimp and crimp cover, and we're going to connect it to that oval jump ring. Remember the oval jump ring I told you about right here? We're going to connect it to that, and then it'll be ready to connect to the actual clasp when we get to that part. So, all right, I'm going to do one of these, and then I'll do this other one, and then I'll move to the next strand. So I'm going to go kind of quickly. I do have videos that show you how to do the crimping. If you want to see those, they're in the playlist. All right, so here we go. We're going to pull it down. Remember to save some space in there. There is a gnat flying around. I don't know what it is with these gnats. Probably because we have a lot of fruit around here. They are loving it. Okay, so I'm going to flatten my crimp, and then I'm going to fold it in half. Well, there it goes. You get it a little tighter. All right, there it goes. I'm going to run this excess back through here as much as I can. Get in there, baby. Get in there. Pull it away just a little. There it goes. I am so excited about this, guys. This is just like, oh. And I would love to see if any of you try to bite this one off and do this one. I would love to see what you come up with, because it just gets me excited that y'all are even going for something that's crazy. You know, because my goal, and I've said this over and over and over again to you guys, but my goal is to not necessarily teach you how to duplicate something. My goal is to teach you guys to take a concept of something, an overall concept, and then do some things with it to make it your own, tweak it, or you know, look at something and go, oh wow, had I done that, I would have done this instead. And that's what it's all about, guys. It's what it's all about. It's making it yours, because duplicating is fun for learning, but after a while, it's like you need to let you come out. And that's my whole thing, is you coming out. Not me, not somebody else, although other people have beautiful stuff and you learn from them. But eventually it's got to be you. All right, I put my little crimp cover on. Thing keeps spinning. And I'm running my finger across it to make sure I don't have any rough edges. Okay, so it's in there. So that's my first side right there. And this will be connected to the clasp. Oop, there's the end of it, so it'll be connected like that. All righty. Okay, I'm gonna finish this other side and then we'll get started on the next strand. All right, I've done strand number 2 here on this side, and I've got my cheat sheet here of how many beads I put where. And then I went ahead and beaded down, and the first strand I did has 5 pearls on each side. This one only has 4. You can see right here. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to bead this side. You see I made the curve. There's my little silver bead. And I'm going to bead this side up. Clamp it off like I did on this one right here with the jump rings. And then I'll move to the next strand or 2. I may wind up just doing 3, but I still may do 4. So I just don't know yet. I'm still playing with that one. And that's a design decision that you can make as you're going. Just because you made the decision at the beginning doesn't mean you have to stick with it. So you know, just go with your intuition and how how it's feeling as it's going, because that's the beauty of the design process. Uh, you have a vision in your head, and then walking that vision out, you may have to make some adjustments and tweaks. So that's good. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and do the next few strands so for time so that the video is not over an hour. So anyway, I'll do the next strands and then I'll get back when we get ready to put the clasp on. Okay, I'm going to show you where I'm at with this. So I decided that I had done all the pearls I was going to do on it, and I decided to just do 3 strands instead of 4. And what I'm doing now is I'm adding the 3rd strand, and it's nothing but the beads. That's it. So when I got down here, you can see I've got it all connected up here at the top. Okay, so I've got it as a cluster up here at the top, and I put the strand of just plain beads in the middle of this, and I'm gonna try to. I don't have it clamped off yet where it's not going to move, but anyway, maybe Ken can zoom in. Okay, oop, let me clamp. Oop, let me do this. All my beads are going to come rolling off if I don't. Okay, so what I did was I went ahead and I did a crimp right here, and I left a little more space because it's in the middle. I left a little more space up here on this part where the beading wire is, because when it comes down like this, I didn't want it up here to spread that apart. I wanted it to kind of hang like that. So I left a little more beading wire in the middle, and then I just started beading all the beads down here. And it was like this before I picked it up. And the beading wire that was left over up here is hidden, as you can see. It's hidden like that. And I went ahead and put the clasp, the end of the clasp, the little S clasp hook. I went ahead and put that on here while I was at it because I knew I wasn't going to do anything else. I didn't need to space anything else. So with that, let me push all these down here. So I've beaded that single strand all the way down to here, and when I threaded it through this part of the bail, I went between these 2 strands. I did not add any little silver beads because I didn't need them in that area, so it just slid right through, and it's really tight in there. So hey, I didn't have to add the silver beads this time, probably because these 2 strands right here have taken up the space within this bail. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to bead all the way up here. And I'll just do a few for those of you who like to watch this process. We are almost done with this project. I'm so excited. All right, so a little trick for you guys that are beginners. If you know you're just going to be stringing a strand like this, just one by itself, um, don't take them all off the strand if you know you're going to do that. Okay, just take your beading wire or your thread and just carefully just run it up through there a few beads at a time like that while it's still on the string. Okay, pull those through like that. And then you won't have all your beads rolling everywhere. So I'm going to keep going here so you can see it again. And I knew that's what I was going to do, so I didn't bother taking them off. And you can string as many as you can get on there at a time if that's your goal of where you're going. Makes it so much easier to deal with. All right, I'll do one more. Now, if I've got an odd, like that one right there is odd, that one right there is, so I'm going to take him out. He's kind of got a whoppy jawed edge on him, and I don't want that. So I'm just going to take that one out right there and pick up where I left off. And oh, and here's another one. See how big that one is right there? I'm going to string these and take that one out. But it might help to expedite your stringing if you're going to be doing it like this where you need a whole bunch of them in a row. All right, we'll take him out. Flip my thread so I don't have as much. All right, I'm going to continue to finish this row right here, and then we'll come back and put the clasp on. Okay, last thing, guys. We're getting ready to put this clasp on. Oh, I'm so happy, happy, happy. This was a long project. I realized that. But there were just a lot of moving parts here that we had to deal with. So I took this side apart just so you could see what happened over here. I took this one apart. So I took my oval jump ring, I opened it up, and then I'm going to put each one of these on here in the order they should be on. So I'm doing the middle one first. Nope, sorry. The outside one first. The middle one there, and then the inside one there. I wonder if it should flip. Nope, it wants to go that way. Okay, so I've got all three of them on. The next thing I'm going to do is put on the ring that's on the S clasp. So it's going on there like that. And then I'm going to close this jump ring up. Very carefully. I'm trying really hard not to make it too complicated. All right, and then I'm just going to gently squeeze that just a hair, and it is closed up. So the last thing we're going to do here is put the S clasp on. And remember, with an S clasp, both sides should not be open. So in other words, one side of this S clasp, which is this one right here, should be closed all the way together. There should be no daylight right here in between these two. Because if you do, I know a lot of people lose their rings, or they'll lose the clasp itself because it slides off the rings. So you need one completely closed up one so that you do not lose that. Okay. And then the next one is going to be open so that you can slide the other side on and off, just like that. So remember, if you're using an S clasp, always close one side of it up. Otherwise, you're going to lose your S and then you're out of luck. Okay, so we are done with this project. Oh my goodness, guys, look at this. Look at this. Had to clear all the stuff off. Oh my goodness. Look at the beauty of this. I am so stoked. I cannot tell you how excited that I am. Look how beautiful. And the silver up here pulls in the silver bail on the bottom. This little tiny sliver of copper right there brings in all the little slivers of copper up through here, pulls it all together. The beadwork goes down the front of the shell. Oh my goodness. Guys, look, look, look. Yeah, it makes me sing. Okay, yay, we're done. If you've gotten any inspiration at all today, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It sure does help me out a lot, and it helps me to know what to bring you next. So, I will see you guys on the next project. Yay, bye.